Welcome to the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hour. Reach Roy at 615-843-2999 or visit roymatlockjr.com. And now, here's Roy.
I did a show recently called The Defense, and it was all about protecting your income, protecting your assets, getting a plan to not lose, avoid mistakes, things like that. And if you haven't listened to that, you can go to roymatlockjr.com or any of the podcasts that you listen to, the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hour, and you'll find out about the defense. And I had a number of listeners that contacted me, and they said, I never thought about that, I just kind of let it go. And, for instance, replacement cost on their home and, things are more expensive. But most importantly, one of the things I picked up from a lot of our listeners was that they really did not know what their liability coverage really was. And if something were to happen and they were in an accident or somebody got hurt, what would actually occur, and were they really protected? And so I would encourage you to go to do that. And today we're going to go toward the offense, and the offense is building wealth, cutting taxes, and being able to pass along to the next generation, money and change family trees and things like that. And so tune in. I'm going to be talking purely about growth today. I started doing this 41 years ago, and the first thing that I learned early on is that you've got to always manage your income. Your income is the key to the outcome of anything that you do when it comes to your money. And so step number one is always grow your income. And how do you do that? Well, you grow your income by becoming more valuable in the workplace. And that could be, you go out, you get more education, you get a different degree. I know my daughter went and got her master's degree, and it allowed her to get to earn more money as a result of it in her industry. And so what happens is if you're a business owner, you've got to be better at your skill set. You've got to understand how to market yourself and put yourself out there in the right way. The reason I do radio is clearly, as a business owner, I get my name out there more. People know who they're dealing with before they come to meet with us or any of our advisors. And so the whole idea is you got to always be learning, a constant learning process to grow your income. So step number one is income when it comes to the offense. All things being equal, if you make more money, you have a better chance of being able to save more money. I've also learned that 50-40-10 rule, which says you beat 50% of anybody you compete with in anything you're competing in by a willingness to outwork them. You beat another 40%. I believe that you beat another 40% by just being an honest, above board person that creates a reputation. And then lastly, you're in the top 10%. If you're in the top 10%, you're probably competing with people that are hard workers and they're good, honest, above board people. But the good news is you're in the top 10%, and anything you do, if you get in the top 10%, you're doing well. So step number one is we're going to work on our income. I always have encouraged people that, get good at something, become great at it, become an independent contractor doing it, because in that way you'll earn more money, and then eventually expand it into a business to where you have an entity that one day you can sell and you're off to the races. And so that's kind of the starting point. Then as you're going along, be willing to live on 50% of what you earn. So if you're making 100, then you live on 50, you save 25, and you put the other 25 is probably going to eat up in taxes and Social Security and stuff like that. So now if you do that, and then you say, well, I want to raise my lifestyle, great, raise your income, keep living on that 25% savings mindset, and you're off to the races. So now once we do that, so how do we go about systematizing things? So right now, if you are out there and your finances are not where you want them to be, I want you to just think for a second, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that more than likely you're not making a profit on your income. And what is a profit? That means that you are actually spending less than you make. So we set our budget up. That's part of the defense, having a great budget, emergency fund, all that stuff. And then what we do from there is we start automating outcomes. So how do we automate outcomes? Well, the first step to automation is to automate your savings every month. How do we do that? If you are sitting here right now listening and you want to change your life, I want you to call my number, 615-843-2999, 615-843-2999, and set up a phone call with one of our advisors, a 15 or 20-minute phone call. And when you get done, you need to tell that when you're talking to that advisor, I want to change my life with my money. And he's going to say, or she's going to say, well, we got to set you up on an automatic draft coming out of your bank account. And then once a month, we know that you've got money being invested. And over a period of time, it's going to become a habit. And you're going to wake up one day and you're going to say, man, this is cool. I put $500 a month away. A year later, I've put $6,000 away and I didn't have to do anything other than just let it happen. And that $6,000 starts growing. And 10 years later, you've put $5,000 a month in, $60,000 over 10 years. And if things go normal, you got $120,000. And all you had to do was start. You just had to start it. And what we do is implement the start for you. So if you want help on that, it's real simple. Don't delay and make the number one mistake I see, which is procrastination. So you do that. We will then put you into something that maximizes growth in your investment. And that's the second part of the system of becoming on the offense. And that is compound interest. Understand the magic of compound interest. The magic of compound interest. I say the magic. The magic of compound interest is if you get 4%, rule of 72 says your money doubles in 18 years. If you get 12%, your money doubles in 6 years. So every time you're doubling is quicker. It's magical. So if you were to put your money in at 1%, rule of 72 says in 72 years, your $1,000 will grow to $2,000. But if you put it in at 10%, it doubles in 7 years. Would you rather want 70 years or 7 years? And then it doubles again, and it doubles again, it doubles again, it doubles again. And so we're going to talk about how compound interest works. We're going to talk about diversification, how to use professional money managers to help you manage and move forward with your money. My name is Roy Matlock Jr. You're listening to the Money and Business Hour. Visit roymatlockjr.com for all of our resources. We'll be right back. All right, we are talking today about the offense. If you're just tuning in, we're going in. This is the second segment of the show, and you can find all segments all the way back to, I think, about 2018 at roymatlockjr.com or any of the podcasts that you listen to. Just go to Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hour. Also, we video this, and so if you would like to see my mug, you can also listen and watch. And so we go through all that. You can see how the show is being done right from the studio. But what we're doing today, we're talking about the offense. The offense is about growing wealth. It's about cutting taxes. It's about passing on money and changing the family tree. And so we ran out of the first segment talking about compound interest, the rule of 72. So get this in your mind. Your money will work as hard as you ask it to work. If you want it to work, be lazy money, just take it to the bank and put it into an account, and they'll pay you maybe 1%. And your money will double in 72 years. It'll just kind of be lazy all along the way. And 72 years later, your $1 grows to $2. If you want it to work harder, you might put it into something else, like maybe a money market account, and it might get you 3%. And your money will double in 24 years. If you want it to double quicker, you might go to a bond fund. They may be getting right now 5 or 6% yield, and it'll double in maybe 14, 15 years. If you put it in the stock market, historically, it's averaged about 10%. Your money doubles every 7 years. And you say, well, do I want lazy money or I don't want my money to work hard for me? And so what we're going to do, we're going to understand the rule of 72. Any interest rate into the number 72 tells you how long it takes your money to double. That's the first part of understanding. Secondly is time. All right. So not timing, time in the market, and consistency. The most important thing you can do is give yourself time. Now, how do you do that? You begin sooner rather than later. So what we want to do, are you saving all the money you want to save? If your answer is no, would you like to save more money? Yes. When would be the best time for you to start saving? Today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now? Answer that question. Today, we want to save more money. How do we do that? We start automating the outcome. How do we automate it? We set up automatic withdrawals from our checking account, maybe into a Roth IRA. We take automatic withdrawals and have it out of our account at work into a 401k or a 403b, where you get matching funds and tax deductions and or tax-free growth in a Roth 401k or a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. Or if you're a business owner, you can do a solo 401k or a SEP or many, many things to get tax benefits, but you got to automate it. All right. You have to automate it. I set up my first draft on my checking account in 1985, and I've had drafts coming out of my checking account since 1985. That's the key to it. It's not me waiting until there's money to save. Nope, that's not the way it works. What I do is I automate the savings, and then it goes into investments. All right. So now what we're doing is we're starting today. We are going to automate it to where we don't have to think about it. And I want you to think the way when you sign up, they've got apps out there right now that will help you get rid of all the automatic subscriptions that you have. All right. Think about that. They got apps to go find all this money you're spending on stuff you're not even using. They got apps that you buy an app to stop paying stuff. All right. Well, if that's the case, the companies that are selling you stuff, they understand that all they got to do is get you started. Then why would you think that if you got started paying yourself into an investment every month that was automated, that you would stop it? You wouldn't. That's why you have equity in your house. You're forced into it. If you don't pay your house payment, guess what happens? You get kicked out. And when you pay your house payment, a portion of it goes toward equity and paying down the principal, and the other portion is interest. And eventually one day you wake up and your house is paid for, and you're like, holy cow, how did that happen? All right, well, I just paid the bill. So we're going to do time and consistency. The third thing we're going to do is we're going to diversify. What is diversification? If you're in business, you are out on the beach and occasionally it rains. So you could sell umbrellas. You could also, when it's sunny, sell sunglasses. So why does that work? Because when it's raining, you make money. When it's sunny, you make money. How about that? When it comes to your investments, that's what you want to be thinking about. You say, well, when the market's down, I'm glad I got some of it that's conservative. And what are different things that we can put our money into? We can have it in stocks, bonds, cash, meaning money markets, things like that. We could even go one step further with annuities. All right. And so what happens is we now have different buckets. We're diversified. We can have U.S. companies. We can have non-U.S. companies called international companies. So for instance, Mercedes-Benz, non-U.S., Chevrolet, U.S. You could go to Mitsubishi, or you could go to Apple, and you've got U.S., non-U.S. You can have small companies, mid-sized companies, large companies. All right. You can have companies in your portfolio that pay dividends, some that don't pay dividends. You can have bonds that are higher risk called high yield or junk bonds. You can have government bonds. You can have all these different things. And so what happens is you get diversified. And no matter what happens, generally there's something you're happy you had. And so diversified. Then what we do is we don't put all of our eggs in one basket. we go one step further. So when we buy a fund, a professionally managed fund, what we're going to do is we're going to take that money and go into a fund that might have 200 companies that are international only. And they go in and professionally manage it. So now we didn't put it in one stock or one bond. We put it into a fund. Those funds are professionally managed. How are they professionally managed? Well, you've got people on Wall Street that are out there researching trends. They're researching profit and losses. They're looking at the future growth of what a company might end up being. How good is their positioning against their competition? What is the government saying about that industry? How is the taxation going to end up? What is the consumer market? They go through all of this stuff. They go all the way back. Bloomberg, as an example. You've heard of Michael Bloomberg. The guy he's a billionaire. And here's what you buy a subscription to Bloomberg, and Bloomberg says, well, let's see how Apple's doing. Well, let's go and find out who's providing the chips to Apple. How are they doing? Are they getting a lot of orders? They are, really. Well, that means maybe Apple is expecting growth, and they go all the way back. And this is what these professional money managers do. And then they go on site and they meet with the C-level and the employees. And if they go through that company and they talk to the people in research and development, now what do you got cooking new? And they do all this kind of stuff. And then they go, I was with a pharmaceutical analyst. And he told me we go to the doctors' conventions and meet with the patients to find out how the drugs are doing. And we send it to DC, and they do all this. And that's why I always tell people, if you think you're going to outperform professional money managers over a long period of time, picking your own stocks, not going to happen. Not going to happen. And so we're going through the offense today. Visit RoyMatlockJr.com. Check out all of our free resources. We'll be right back. All right, segment 3 on the offense. And we've been talking about so far pay yourself first, compound interest, time and consistency, diversification. We're now into professional money management. And I want to bring this up. I had an opportunity to visit the Capital Group. The Capital Group's one of the largest fund groups out there. I've been putting people with them for many, many, many years. Last time I visited out there, I had the opportunity to stay at the hotel across from Los Angeles County Courthouse. And I turned the news on, and guess what? OJ was driving the Bronco right into the courthouse, and I actually got to witness OJ pull in. It was kind of one of those things. That's how long ago I went back, and when I was at their headquarters, and I learned a lot. And one of the things I learned is that those companies do a lot of research, and they have access to research that most individuals will never have access to. And as a result, they are able to consistently, those type of companies, professional money managers, go out and consistently do well. And if you put your money in there and you concentrate, not so much on trying to hit a home run, but you concentrate on putting more money in and do it sooner, you will be successful. And what I mean by that is go back to the foundation I did in segment 1, which is grow your income, become more valuable in the marketplace, and save 25% of what you earn. So let's take a look at that. If you're making $100,000 and that's 25% would be 25,000. If you're making $500,000, 25% would be 125,000. Well, if you put 125,000 away in a year, that's more than 25,000. It's more than 5,000. So what's the key to it? Just raise your income and then put that money out there. And so what we do, we have buckets of money. We have low risk, mid risk, high risk, or another way to look at it is stocks, bonds, and cash. What is a stock? What is a bond? What is a money market? So the first thing I learned early on in the business that really kind of, I've used this story so many times to help you learn how funds work and stocks and things like that. And so First thing that happens is I learned a thing called become an owner, not a loaner. And how did I learn that? I mean, it was one of those things. I started out, as a kid, the first thing our parents always tell us to do is to go, we got to go down and get you a bank account open. It'll be maybe in the parent's name, and you do that kind of stuff. And so they call it a savings account. So you go to the bank and you set up a savings account or a certificate of deposit, whatever it may be. And for the longest time, before I understood, I thought, man, that's good. I'm saving money. Well, what you're really doing is you're loaning money. And wait a minute, you're loaning money. Yeah. I mean, like I have some cash in my pocket right now. And if I were to walk into the bank and deposit that to the bank, I'm saying, here, Mr. Bank, who are there in the Mr. Bank, here, bank. All right. I'm going to loan you $100. They put it in the savings account. And I asked them, how much are you going to pay me to borrow my money? And they say, well, we're going to pay you 0.25 of 1%. I'm like, okay, I got it. And I leave and I get 0.25 of 1%. They, in turn, the next person walks in the bank and they say, I need to buy a car. I need to get a car loan. And they're like, okay, let's check your credit and we will loan you that at 13%. That's the average used car rate right now, 13%. So they borrowed it from me at 0.25 of 1%, and they loaned it to the next person at 13%, and they made 12.75% on the money that I loaned them. All right. So would you rather own the bank or would you rather loan your money to the bank? And everybody would agree with me. Own the bank. I would rather have people loan me money at 0 to 1% and loan it back to them on a car or credit card at 13 to 24% and make the spread. It's pretty simple. Now I get that. So what's the answer? Just buy the bank. How about that? That's all you got to do. Just buy the bank. And then you own the bank and you have all these people loaning all this money at little or nothing to the bank, and you loan it back to some other people at 13% or a house, and you have collateral, credit card, 24%, and you make the difference. Simple, nothing to it. And people say, well, I can't buy the bank. Oh, yes, you can. You can buy the bank. How do you buy the bank? You own stock in the bank. You own a share of stock, and you get to share in the earnings of what that bank has made. And when they start making a lot more money, something called multiples of income come into play, and the stock goes up because it's making more money and your shares go up. So that share went up. You say, well, I don't know which bank to buy. Well, what if I told you there's somebody that would do that for you? That's what professional money managers do. They go out and they find the most profitable banks. That would be one example. Another example that will help you to understand why you've got to get your money working for you is you go to Vegas. I've been to Vegas, and people go to Vegas and they go out there and they have a predetermined amount of money in many cases that they're going to lose. Or say, look, I'm only going to lose $1,000. All right, I'm taking $1,000 with me. I'm only going to lose $1,000. And you sit there and you say, well, that's kind of a weird way of looking at things. If you're going to go out there and lose $1,000, why wouldn't you go out there and say, well, I'm going to make money? Well, the reason is it's rigged. It's pretty rigged. The casino has figured out that blackjack, the odds are over a long period of time, they're going to win. Roulette, they know they're going to win. So what happens? You go out there and you lose money. So would you rather be the gambler or the casino? I'd rather own the casino. It's easy enough. Just buy the casino. Well, I can't buy a casino. Yes, you can. You could own stock in the casino. I don't know which one to buy. Well, what if we had someone pick the best casinos for you? This is what professional money managers do. They go out and they research, and the next thing you know, you're diversified across hundreds of companies within, say, a large cap growth fund. And then you've got a small cap growth fund where they've researched hundreds of companies and bought into small companies, all right, that are going to be the big companies of the future. I was with a lady that is venture capital, and she told me that she goes to Harvard, MIT, and Stanford and kind of hangs out. And they do what's called early seed funding for ideas. And they let these kids that are the brainiacs of these schools bring them ideas. And if they like the idea, they put money into it. And those ideas become sometimes big time companies. And that would be small company invest, even pre-small company investing. But the point being is there are people out there that have consistently been able to do the research and put things together, and you end up getting returns on your money. That is called diversification. That's called professional money management. That is what I've always believed is the best way for someone to do things. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go into these different accounts. We're on the offense, and we're going to have different buckets of risk. We're going to have high risk, mid risk, low risk, and we're going to take our money and diversify it across these different things. And so when we come back, I'm going to talk about diversification. I'm going to talk about tax planning. I'm going to talk about different retirement plans that you can do, college plans for your children. So stick with me. This is the Growth Show, the Offense Show. My name is Roy Matlock Jr. We'll be right back. We are finishing up segment 4 on the Offense and the Growth Show. And if you are listening right now, if you would like to have a free consultation, and the way we operate generally is set a call, and the first thing we'll do is we'll talk to you about what your goals are, and then we'll help you put together what is called a GPS, a goal, a plan, a schedule. We can then talk more details about where you're at, where you want to go. And then from there, if it makes sense, then we get together. And generally a phone call is the best way to get started to see if we're a fit. I would recommend to you, if you are at a point in your life to where maybe you've done well, you want a second opinion, or you are wanting to get started, pick the phone up and call us. We've been doing this for over 40 years, 615-843-2999, 843-2999. And you can also visit roymatlockjr.com. I have a resource page that you can learn. You can listen to the podcast, get educated all you want. That's I believe education's the key. And then you can also schedule if you'd like to do that. And that we are a financial advisory firm, and we help people anything having to do with money. If we don't specifically do it, we have a vetted referral. So when it comes to your money, you have one phone call, one place, one person, and we have access to everything. So let's talk about asset allocation now. We talked about stocks, bonds, and cash. You have annuities that fall in there. So as you are growing your wealth, diversification becomes a bigger play. As you get older, we look at your risk tolerance, your time horizon. So when I meet with people, the first thing we do, if we were sitting across, I would ask you what your goal is, and then I would ask you questions. And the questions would be something similar to this. So getting started, what I'd like to do is ask you a few questions. Worst case, I'm going to give you some good recommendations and kind of get a better understanding where you're at, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So number one, do you own your home? If you were to sell it today, would you sell it for? And they're $600,000. Do you have a mortgage? Yes. What's your rate on your mortgage? Good. All right. Got a low interest rate. We don't want to pay that off. And do you have any bank cash, CDs? Yes, I've got $12,000 in there for an emergency fund. All right, great. Do you have any retirement plans currently set up? Well, I've got a 401k. Do you have any previous 401ks? Any other retirement accounts? Do you have any brokerage accounts? Do you have any rental properties? Anything else that I should know about? What about any other debt? Do you have any college plans? How many children do you have? How old are your kids? All right. Have you checked your beneficiaries? Do you have a will or a trust? We go through this. What type of life insurance? Do you have disability insurance? Do you have health insurance? Do you have to buy it on your own? We go through all of this kind of stuff. And then once we get an understanding, then what we're going to do is we're going to start working on, as I said, the defense. The defense is the beginning, and then we're on the offense. So now what we're doing is we're working on the offense. And in working on the offense, what we do is now we do some diversification, asset allocation, things like that. And so now we're going to asset allocate. So if you're younger, we're going to be more growth oriented, more than likely. If you're older, we're going to be a little bit more preservation oriented. When you're pulling money, it's entirely different than when you're investing money. So our goal is get you to a point where your financial independence number is hit. That's the number, the amount of money needed to provide you a lifetime income that will never run out. And in many cases, will never run out with an inheritance to pass along. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to take advantage of tax planning. So I'll give you some examples. You can have tax deferral. You can have tax deductions. You can have tax-free. You can have capital gains tax treatment. You've got different ways to being taxed. All right. So how do we go about doing it? Well, tax-free, typically Roth IRAs, or an example, tax deductible. You might do a deductible IRA or 401k, where if you put money in, you get to take it off your income taxes. Whether you should do that or a Roth depends on where you're at in life, where your tax bracket is, where your tax bracket's going. We do planning like that. We take advantage of the different retirement accounts, from SEPs to 401ks, so solo 401ks for self-employed people. We look at your retirement plans through work. We help you choose. We do all that kind of stuff. So we look and take advantage of all that. You have college plans, 529s. You have UTMAs, where you can gift money to kids that they can use for whatever they want to use. So these are all the different types of things that go into the offense. We have ETFs. ETFs, if you are buying an ETF, one of the benefits of an ETF, it has favorable tax treatment. If you have money that you specifically believe that you'll never use in your lifetime, an ETF might be an option for you. Why is that? Because there's a thing called a step up. So for instance, if we do an ETF and you buy it, today and put in $100,000 and it grows to $500,000 and you pass that $500,000, all that steps up, and you basically had almost tax-free money. Very little taxes will occur if you don't sell an ETF. And so we go in and we look at all the tax treatments that way. We think about gifting to our kids. And how do we do that? We gift to get it out of our estate in the event that we might have estate tax issues going on. So there's all these different things that go into the offense. But the key to the offense is you got to have something. And how do you get there? You got to take action to get there. And taking action would be you start with the basics. What's the basics? An automatic draft on your account. So let me give you another example. So had a client of mine, and the son was 16, and the son was into understanding this stuff. And I remember sitting there, and the kid was like 13, 14 years old. And we, when I would meet with the family, he'd always sit in there and listen, and he'd ask me questions. And it kind of prompted me to do a thing called a family financial workshop, which I'll tell you more about. But what happened is got a job at Wendy's, and we set up a mutual fund account for him. And that mutual fund account enabled him to put as little as $50 a month in, and he was making money. So we set that up, had his checking account. We did that. We also, when he made money, more money, he would send it in. Back then he had to write a check and send it in. But the long and short of it was, in his early 20s, he had accumulated, just from his odd jobs, about $20,000. We were in a seminar years later, maybe 6, 7, 8 years later. He was at the seminar, big crowd, and he held his hand up. I saw him, and he held his hand up, and he said, I started when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, saving my money, and I was able to take and buy a house and put the down payment down as a result of that money. I still have more money in it than I'd originally invested. And now I'm in a home. And he got started just because his parents said, let's get started investing money rather than just going to the bank and doing something boring. And so what I did was I did the same thing with my kids. And then one day I started looking, I said, I got my parents have done really well as a result of the money. I was been investing their money forever. And then my sisters and my brother, they all got started. And then we have big families. My mother just passed away at 102, and we had 5 generations. Crazy part, my mother was born in 1923, and we had a 5th generation born in 2023. And so, big family, kids everywhere, all this kind of stuff. And one day I had this idea. I said, we need to do a family financial workshop because I know my direct siblings are doing well and my mom and dad are doing well. What about the kids and the kids and the kids and the kids? And so we did that. And crazy part, I had my nieces and nephews and any of the teenagers come around, and we had 27 people show up to that. And all 27, I told them, I said, look, if we don't have a fund set up for you, I'm going to gift that to you. So I gifted money to all of my family to say, hey, let's get these accounts set up for all the kids and the grandkids and the nieces and the nephews, because you can't even keep up with it. And so we did a thing called a family financial workshop. We did that one year, to where we had all of the teenagers and young adults and families get together and sit in on a family financial workshop we ran on Zoom. And so we've done that many, many times. So if you're out there right now and you want to change your family tree, one of the ways that you can do that is you just call us and say, I want to do a family financial workshop for my entire family. Doesn't matter where they live. They can live anywhere in the country because we're going to do it on Zoom. All right. And we'll do a Zoom for you, and it will help you get all your kids going in the right direction. You can have someone else beat them up a little bit and talk to them about being dumb, buying new cars when they're young and all that kind of stuff. And we'll help you do that. We then move in the offense into the final withdrawal stages. And that's where we set up withdrawal plans. Where should we pull it from? What's the best option? I had a client yesterday, asked me about, he just retired, first check. He and his wife both are getting their first checks. And we looked strategically what the best place was to pull it from. And we do that. That's based on, taxation. It's based on if the market's up or the market's down, depending on what it is. We do things like that. You may want to make some charitable contributions. Some of the things that you can do. We have one of my clients I talked to this last week that, we made the charitable contribution to the church, but we did it as a direct gift from the IRA. And so therefore we avoided having to pay taxes on the IRA. So that had we withdrawn the money from the IRA, paid taxes on it, then made the donation, then we would have had to pay taxes. If we do a direct one, you don't have to do that. So there's all these different things that going in to winning the money game. And when I went on the radio many, many years ago, Dave Ramsey and I started a radio show called The Money Game. It came from a seminar I would do called How to Win the Money Game. And it is a money game. If you want to play it to win, you can. What's the key to it? Well, there's some keys. The first one is you got to get educated. And I want to compliment you if you're listening. Had one of my listeners tell me that he takes a walk around the block and he listens to the podcast. I was like, good, that's a good thing. And so it starts with getting educated. Once you get educated a little bit, call us. All right. If you haven't been educated at all, if it's your first time, call us. We will get you educated and help you implement a plan. Call 615-843-2999 or visit roymatlockjr.com. Listen to the podcast. We'll be back next week.